Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Joel. So today we are on episode 48. We are getting close to the end of season 2, and so far season 2 is going great. And as we come to a close, I've been able to bring on new guests to my channel, which, speaking of new guests, we do have one right here with us today. This is Devin. If you don't know who he is by now, you have not been on my social media because I've known Devin for 13 years. We actually met back in high school. My junior year, we met at Pennsylvania High School through a mutual friend, Cliff, who we met through, and we have been able to connect in that way. We've been able to go on like trips together, whether it's with a church group or whether it's our own kind of trips. So we've been able to travel to probably at least 10 to 15 states together. It's been great having a travel companion with me while I'm single and looking for my future wife. And even when I do get married, I do hope to, continue these on in the future. So anyways, this is Devin, and I'm glad that you are here. So thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And absolutely. So, in case if y'all realize I'm not in my room, there's no pictures of my travel adventures in the background. We are actually in a library today. We are in the Trustful Public Library. So we actually got a meeting room reserved here. So I thought it would be nice to kind of change settings, just because neither of our houses are very convenient as far as like doing a recording. So I thought since we have this opportunity, might as well take advantage of it. So before I tell you what the topic is about, I'm going to have Devin introduce himself, just say, where he's from, even though I've already kind of told y'all. But anyways, he can tell everybody where he's from, and then say what he does for a living. So you can go ahead.
Well, I'm originally from Amsterdam, New York, Brooklyn, New York, and I moved to Amsterdam, New York when I was 2 months old. And I've been living there for 14 years. And then after that 14-year mark, I moved down to the south. And I lived in the north for 14 years. And then I moved to the south when I was 14. And it's kind of an adjustment moving from the north to the south. Big difference.
Yeah, most definitely. That's actually going to be something we're going to talk about. But tell the people what you do for a living.
I bake and I mix. So I'm a baker. I do bread, I do pastries, I do cookies, I do anything delicious that you could think of. I also do cupcakes. I sometimes do cake itself. I'm kind of like, I work with all the sweets and can get into a diabetic coma at times.
Yeah, I bet.
So it's heavy when it comes to all the sweets and all the delicious goods that you can think of. And working around that environment is very nerve-wracking, because when I work around it every day, I always want something. So, but I always have to tell my mind, like, no, you can't have that.
Yeah, I could see how that's very tempting, working at a place like that. You've been there for almost 7 years, or has it been 7 years?
At my job?
Yeah.
5.
Oh, I was wrong. So.
Yeah, I work at Publix Bakery.
Yeah, so for those that don't know what Publix is, because not everywhere has a Publix, it's basically like a grocery store. It's somewhat similar to something like Target or Walmart, without the electronics, I guess.
And it's only in the South.
Yeah, it is mainly here in the South. So for those that don't know, that's basically what it is, a grocery store, supermarket kind of thing. So anyways, everybody, that is Devin, and we are going to go ahead and talk about the topic of the day, which the topic of the day is going to be on life changes. So just here a couple of minutes ago, Devin talked about moving here from New York to Alabama. So that's definitely going to be one thing that we're going to talk about. But before that, I kind of want to rewind just a little bit even further back. So I want to talk about some life changes that happened before he moved here, because he didn't move here until the beginning of his high school experience. So I want to talk about our elementary and middle school experiences. So first, we're going to talk about kindergarten and like the elementary days. So you said to me before we started this recording that you don't remember nothing about kindergarten.
Absolutely not.
So you don't remember your first day of school and nothing like that?
Nope.
So
It's all a blur.
So what do you think is like the first memory that you can think of when it comes to elementary? Do you remember kind of what grade or what area of like your life that would be?
The only thing I could really think of is like the school bus,
Yeah.
and then like going into class, hearing the school bell, being notified it's time for lunch, stuff like that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's always nostalgic things to think about because always I used to ride the school bus as well, most definitely up until my senior year, I think. I think most of the time I rode the school bus for the most part. I always had the same bus driver. That was always neat, and having the same bus driver, and every time we would get on, he would remember us, and he even remembered me at like Fujian. He used to always come in there, which Fujian was my first job that I had, and yeah, I remember he always like would like talk to me every now and then, and even as I got older, like he still kept up with me. So I always enjoyed that about him. But I do remember that from my elementary days. I also do remember my first day of kindergarten. It's weird because like for people won't know what this is, but I guess I'm explaining it to Devin. So do you know that place where they do the incenitarium? Like Pinson Incenitarium in Halloween.
Yeah.
Sorry for the voice cracks, but but that is where they used to have kindergarten for Pinson students. But my class was in a trailer outside the building, so I wasn't even in that building. So I do remember my first day. My dad dropped me off, and I remember I wasn't really sad, but I do remember other students being really like, no, Dad, no, Mom, don't leave me here. And they were all like sad and crying. But for me, I was just like, all right, see you later. So, yeah, I didn't really have a sad experience, but I do remember a little bit about my kindergarten. I was, for the most part, a good student. I mean, I'm sure there were moments where I fell into different peer pressures that maybe other elementary kids, students did that got me in trouble. Like I remember one, for instance, like everybody was wetting their hair in like first or second grade, and I ended up like going along with them and got in trouble. The teacher was not happy with that. And we had these like card things, like there was like a green card, yellow card, orange card, pink card kind of thing. Green meant that you were like really good, but if you got in trouble, you had to like remove the green card and it was a yellow card. And then if you did something again, it would be orange then pink. And pink was like you're really in trouble, like probably with the principal. But so I actually have not had that experience of like, getting in trouble with the principal, thankfully. But I did one time had to remove my green card for it to be a yellow, and I remember being so upset with myself. But because I guess I fell into trying to stay, I guess, cool with the kids, which I've learned as I gotten older that popularity is not what it seems to be. There's no good reason for popularity, and especially being older now, after high school and even college, just learned that like
It doesn't even matter.
yeah, it doesn't even define who you are at the end of the day. So there's that. But as far as elementary, I do remember that there was one thing I remember I got in trouble for something that I didn't do. But I remember my dad was not happy with this assistant principal. So I remember my first grade year, like how sometimes parents have to sign stuff, like for the kids, students, and my dad had to sign something. He signed it in pencil instead of pen. So it made it look like, I guess, it made it look like to the assistant principal, like that I did it, that I signed I forged his signature and like wrote it down because it was in pencil. So she came in and embarrassed me in front of the whole class, like accusing me of doing this. And I remember crying and being
You felt humiliated.
yeah, I was humiliated for sure. I remember coming home telling my parents about it. My dad the next day went to the office and was not happy. He definitely told him off, and he explained to him that he had a pencil that was just the most convenient thing he had, like close by. So like he just grabbed the first thing and signed it. So
Wow.
yeah, so that was definitely as far as elementary, that was like one big memory that's still in my head just because I was accused of doing something wrong that I
Right.
didn't do. So yeah, that was definitely sad. But as far as I mean, I do remember some other things in elementary, like going on field trips. Do you remember any of that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, do you remember any of your like favorite field trips that you went on?
Well, maybe one was like a pumpkin patch.
Yeah.
You know, I guess when I was little, I had a little crush, you know, because everybody has their sweetheart or whatever. And,
Yeah.
you know, I guess I get excited about doing stuff like that, but we never actually dated or did anything like that. We just kind of like were wanted to see each other and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, other things from like elementary school, I guess, you know, just not signing up to be an adult. Literally, like, I mean, I don't think any of us really signed up to be an adult. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we get older and just like, what did we fall into? Like, we fell into a trap.
Yeah,
And, you
exactly.
know, being back in elementary school, we had less stress. We didn't have any worries on any, no anxiety, no stress, no depression, none of that. And, you know, because as we get older, we feel all the feelings. And, you know, I guess it defines, you know, where we come from, our strength, how we handle stuff like that. And, you know, but you learn as, you know, as you progress through everything. And I guess as you get older as well. So, but I guess in elementary school, you really don't know as much because, you know, your brain's still processing, you know, you're still a little kid. Why you have to worry about that right now?
Yeah.
And, you know, because you're living with your parents, you know, you get free meals, you go to school, you do your after school activities, you hang out with your friends. Um, when I was in elementary school, I had friends or I had friends that I associated with. And but after when like school was over, I didn't really associate it with people much because I was more introverted than extroverted.
Hmm.
Even like going through like high school, I was introverted because you know I guess I was the shy kid and wasn't really outspoken, and I've always stood quiet, and people always ask like, "Is he okay?" and stuff like that. And I'm like, "I'm good. I just don't feel like associating with anybody or anything." And I guess that's just how I was when I was younger. But I guess when I got older, I realized that you know I've definitely outgrown that, and I'm more talkative to people I know I'm good with and associate with a lot, like you and other people. Um, so yeah, elementary school days. Back to that. Just living the good times, living happy times. You know, just we had a favorite teacher. I think it was one of a teacher I really remember back then. Her name was Miss Tuttle, and she was very nice. She was very helpful. She always asked questions. She always like threw pizza parties and stuff like that. And it was nice having her as a teacher when we had recess. You know, she would say like, "Hey, come on, let's go back to class." um, I kind of remember her face a little bit, but not too much because you know I was still little and all because I was still in elementary school. But I still remember her name, and just it still sticks. But all I remember is that she was a very nice teacher, and wherever she's at now, even if she's watching this, maybe not. You know, hi. So I'm one of your students, and you know that you were a good teacher. So if you're listening, Miss Tuttle.
Yeah, I think that's always nice. I always still remember my elementary teachers as well, just because sometimes I guess they were just so nice. Most of them were nice. I don't think I ever had a mean elementary teacher. And some of them I can't really remember like faces either, but like I can remember their names. And I just remember, like, I guess, especially with one of my teachers, I actually keep up with on Facebook, my fifth grade teacher, Miss Egerton. She actually got married here recently, so her last name is different. And to be honest, I forgot what her last name is now. But, uh, but anyways, I remember my fifth grade year being in her class. It was very fun, and I guess like she was very nice. And I remember fifth grade graduation we had at a church that actually both of us went to at one point, Center Point First Baptist. We had our fifth grade graduation there. And I remember like she gave me a hug in front of everybody, like when they were like saying our names going up there, almost kind of like at high school, you do the handshake with the principal. But this elementary was, you basically handshake with your fifth grade teacher. And but instead of handshaking, she gave a hug. And I remember crying, like leaving there because she, I guess, was someone that impacted me and I guess makes me miss, like you were talking about, like we didn't have no stress or no worries in life really. It was like, or like you said, depression or mental health kind of things. We were just like, we were innocent and well, I mean, I'm sure there was bad kids out there, but like just the innocence of being a kid, I guess is what I mean.
Right.
Not having to worry about heartbreak and stuff like that, which actually, for those that are watching, if you saw my last episode on childhood, I did one with Chris Kelly, which Devin knows as well. We talked about childhood stuff too in that episode. So I guess it's good that we're kind of continuing on into this conversation talking about childhood. So I think that's just some of my big memories. As far as field trips, I do remember going to the theater, the children's theater in downtown Birmingham, watching different plays, whether it been Christmas Carol or like Willy Wonka, the Chocolate Factory kind of thing. So I do remember those good old days. So now I guess kind of going into middle school. There are definitely some more changes that happened in middle school. A lot of things that I learned in middle school, some things not so good. And so I think we're going to talk now about middle school. So once you got into middle school, do you feel like things changed to where life, what like maybe you didn't feel as like innocent and free like a kid, like maybe you had more things to maybe harder classes or more teachers, because once you get into middle school you don't have just one teacher, you have like, for us in my middle school we had like 7 teachers. So how was that change for you in middle school?
Going from elementary to middle school, maybe a little scarier than like going to middle school to high school.
Mm-hmm.
Well, high school is like scary for young kids and all that, but middle school, definitely more of a different experience because elementary school is a little easier than middle school because you're going to a more challenge because everything is more difficult and everything is more advanced and everybody's older and you're dealing with, since you're in 6th grade, that you're going to go to dealing with 7th and 8th graders, and then I guess that time, you could deal with bullies, you could deal with anything like middle school, anything, just whatever middle school puts out there. So, but there are a lot of challenges when it comes to middle school, dealing with stuff like that, harder teachers, harder work, just the more advancement and being in middle school, stuff like that. But I guess just being in middle school is it's just more of a challenge than elementary school. It's a lot more difficult,
Mm-hmm, most definitely. Yeah, you were right, because I think I could even agree saying that moving from elementary to middle school was scarier than moving from middle school to high school, just because, for one thing, the amount of teachers that we have, the amount of subjects that we have to take care of. Like in elementary, we had one teacher that had talked about many subjects, but now we have many teachers that talk about their, I guess, what their profession is in as far as subject goes. So that was like one big difference, having to transition all that. And then also like the idea of having lockers, which I mean that wasn't really stressful, but that was like a change that like you couldn't carry all 7 books at the same time. I mean, unless you were like really trying to act like you were some big tough guy. But there was that comes with that, and then also dealing with kids that are higher up than you, like 7th and 8th graders, like you were saying, because like even in elementary, I don't really remember like being bothered by like 5th graders because I was a kindergartner. But once you got into middle school, there came more of the bullying stuff that happens in middle school, which is, I guess, kind of where like bullying happened for me in middle school, especially my 8th grade year. was definitely hard going through that. Like even though I was one of the, I was the oldest group at the school, but like being bullied by people in my own grade, I guess is what was challenging and hard. Some of it was just regular fake rumor, kind of like stuff they want to put out there. Some of it was worse than that. Like, I know I've brought it up on this at podcast before, but like one day I remember being like touched by another guy, like sexually. So like I remember that happening my eighth grade year. So that was kind of hard and still embarrassing to think of, just because he humiliated me in front of like we had a whole like class group picture when he did that to me, and we were sitting on the front row. And so I just remember that, like, and that almost makes me miss like the elementary days out of that, just because now I'm being exposed to more adult-like things that happen when you're an adult, like as far as sexual things and puberty, of course. You start changing as far as your voice, your height, and all of that. And then, of course, like I mentioned, the like whole like bullying starts happening in middle school. So I feel like a lot of things in middle school happen for me that like I don't miss. Like I definitely, I mean, my sixth and seventh grade was good, but like my eighth grade was terrible. It was awful.
Right, because of being sexually touched.
Yeah, so, and that happened to me more than once by the same person. This person doesn't go, like, that I only was with this person, like, this person was only in our class for 1 year. Like, I've never seen him in my life. He showed up our eighth grade year. Then the following year, he moved out of state to, like, Tennessee. So I didn't have to deal with him any longer, thankfully, after eighth grade. So, so there's that. And then the bullying continued into high school. But before I continue on that, was there anything from middle school, like as far as teachers, or what? Did you have a favorite subject in middle school that you could think of besides PE? I was good. Did you like PE?
Oh, everybody loves PE because you don't have to use your brain as much. Well, you do have to use your brain for everything, but not as more advanced as like classes, because you have more freedom when you're in gym. But back in Amsterdam, New York, we had swimming classes, just swimming classes. That was one of my favorite classes to look forward to, because I'm just like, no books, no listening to teachers as much. You could have your own time, and you get free swimming lessons, or you just get to swim. So can't go wrong with that. And then after that, go straight to lunch. I'm like, this is already a good hour and a half.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, and then after that, I'm just like, oh, I gotta go to class. But yeah. So swimming, I guess it would be called swimming classes. The period that would be on. It was like one of the last periods that we would. That's what we would call them, periods.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's what they called them here as well, as periods. And then, but I never had a swimming class. We didn't have no swimming pool at our middle school. We just had the probably most exciting thing was probably PE for us.
right, and the thing was, it was right next to the cafeteria.
Oh man.
I know. So like after when you got done with that, you go straight to lunch and everything right there. And then when you first walk into the building, it smells like chlorine.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's like on the lower level. And because it was a couple floors. I think it was like 1 or 2 floors. And you could smell the chlorine from when you walk in. So, and then we had vending machines, which was a huge plus. Great food. Pretty much swimming and lunch was probably my best classes.
Yeah.
I know cafeteria or lunch is not really a class, but who doesn't look forward to eating?
Yeah, exactly. Some of those good school lunches, they would really hit.
I know.
That would be so really good.
I know, if they had them down there, if they did, they had Crispitos, but I know they had that here, which was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had taco salads and just whatever you could really think of, they pretty much had it.
Yeah, they did have a good variety. Sometimes I do, like if I missed anything about school, it's probably the school lunches. Sometimes were good. Some of it not so much, but there were a few dishes, I guess, they would have out there that was pretty good, actually.
Yeah. I'm just like, cafeteria is actually serving this. So I was like, I'll take this anytime.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, just swimming classes and PE. PE and then lunch.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, that's
not
good.
really much of a class favorite or anything like that, but those were my favorite ones.
Yeah, I think if I had a favorite subject, it would probably have been something like in eighth grade. I took business tech, was like computer class, like where you can like type how fast, like you had to see how many words you can type in a minute, stuff like that. Which I guess is kind of what got me into like my career now, like as far as what I do for work and even for my reasoning to go to school for computer science in the first place. So I guess I would say out of all of my whole middle school experience, that would have been my favorite was business tech is what it was called. So yeah, there's that. But I guess moving on into high school, it's almost somewhat the same as middle school, but the only difference is for not for me, but for Devin, is that he was in a different state once he was in the middle of his high school experience. So as far as moving down here from New York to Alabama, what are some big differences that you saw in like the schools or even just in general? What was some big like differences that you saw?
I could probably go on for this.
Yeah.
Go on and on and on. Well, I guess, like I said, I was 14 when I moved out, and my parents decided, because my dad was doing real estate at the time. And I guess I didn't fully understand because I was so comfortable in being in Amsterdam, New York. And all of a sudden they say, we're moving to Pinson, Alabama. And I was just like, so mad, and I'm just like, why are we moving down to the south? And I'm just like, this is a huge change, and like, why Alabama of all places? Didn't fully understand anything. Like, why? That's all I always says, like, why? Thumbs down. But mainly, I guess, just when I got older, I started getting comfortable. But main reason, I guess, like I said, my dad was doing real estate. I didn't really have a choice. So, and plus, I didn't want to not be with my family. I had no choice but to be with my family. But I love my family. So, but yeah, it's a huge change because down there I had 7 classes, and over here it's 8, and I got left back a credit, which led me to taking summer school, and I almost didn't graduate with my class. So I had to take summer school, and I went to Irwin High School. Yeah. Okay. And then went there for summer school at night, and it was kind of scary. And I had no choice but to do it because I didn't want to get left back, and I wanted to graduate on time.
Yeah.
So I ended up doing that, and I ended up earning a credit back. So I ended up graduating with my class, and it was definitely different because, like I said, I had 7 classes down there, and over here it's 8. So, like I said, that's why it led me to taking summer school. And I think I took summer school somewhere within that time frame of 9th grade and 12th grade. It was somewhere around there, but all I know is I graduated on time.
Yeah, well, I'm glad for that at least. That they, I guess, due to moving, I can somewhat relate. Not for me, but like my mom, they used to move in between Georgia and Alabama a lot. So like they were always like far behind, like as far as education wise. So that was a challenge. Like sometimes they'll go to Georgia, and then like Georgia's so far ahead as far as education compared to Alabama, so that by the time they came to Alabama, it seemed like they would know stuff, but then they would go back to Georgia, and it would be like, whoa, what is all this? So like everything's like so advanced. So I could definitely see that. And then as far as also moving from New York to Alabama, I'm sure there were changes as far as like weather-wise and even people. I bet.
Yeah, people down here are more nicer. I mean, not saying that the people down there weren't nice, but you definitely see the difference between there and here.
Yeah.
So, over there, everybody is, everybody has a north accent or northern accent. Down here, everybody has more of a southern accent.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, it's definitely, I bet just that was different to kind of get used to as far as people's accents. And I realize, and a lot of us talk slower, I'm sure, and we definitely add more, I don't know, just add more to our accents, I guess. Even though New York does too, I definitely have heard plenty of New Jersey, New York accents, which
Oh yeah, like, hey, how you doing?
yeah.
So and then here it's
So
just like, howdy, y'all.
yeah, yeah, we have. I have seen the difference because a month ago, me and Devin actually got to go to New York City, which was a blast. But it definitely was a whole different world up there than it is down here in Alabama, just because of it's so diverse up there. Here in Alabama, we do like. I mean, there is a little bit of diversity here, but it's mainly in like downtown or like in the Hoover area. But like where we live in Pinson, it's like you're either white, Hispanic, or you're Black, African American, and that's about it. Like you get kind of those three categories, but like when you get downtown, you get a little bit more diversity as far as like Asians and Middle Easterns and stuff like that. So I bet that was different. That was even different for me, I guess, starting in college, realizing that. But since we're still talking about high school, like I bet, kind of going back to what you were talking about with the school credits, I bet that was a challenge, but I'm glad you were able to graduate. But as far as like making friends, did you feel like it was hard making friends here in Alabama?
A little bit, but some people greeted me as I came by. I did meet a few people. Some of my friends were mainly seniors, because I guess I told them I was from New York, and I guess people were impressed by that. And it was like, why move to Alabama of all states, and you're coming from New York? I'm just like, I did it because of my parents. I didn't do it
Yeah.
because of me.
Yeah, it's like no
Like I had no
choice.
choice. Like I mean, I didn't want to move down here. I was so upset, and I'm just like going from a whole different world, going from the north to the south is crazy, and I'm just like, but it's something I had to get comfortable with because like I said, I'm mainly from the north, and I know everything or most things from there, and I didn't know anything about the south. So I mean, I guess when I moved down here, it was a little exciting at times when I first moved because I guess a lot of people were just like, "Whoa, you're from New York?" It's like, no way. It's like we don't really have that many people from New York down here, and everybody's mainly from the South or other different states from like close to Alabama. But I think the main concern about coming down here is everybody always would ask me what my ethnicity is. And when I told them, or when they asked me, they kind of just like assumed what I was, and I told them I'm not that.
Yeah.
And for anybody who is watching, I am half African American and I am half Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
And I also have a part of Panamanian in me. So, but everybody would always ask like, they asked me like anything from the book, like if they thought I was Muslim or from Afghanistan. I think some said from like South America or Africa or just anything but not from here.
Yeah.
So I mean, they thought I was Native American at times. They just named anything they could name of, and anything but like, well, they actually did Mexican too, and I told them I'm definitely not Mexican. So
Yeah.
I told them I'm like half Black and half Puerto Rican. So I'm just like, wow, you have some beautiful combinations right there. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm very grateful for my parents, that they met, and they've been together 41 years, and they've been together since they were kids. But yeah, just having parents, one Black, my dad Black, and then my mom Puerto Rican, and then having them, made me, and I'm just like, I'm just grateful because, I guess there aren't really a lot of mixed genders or like mixed intensities like that. But it's nice to be like a mixed combination of like, of Black and Puerto Rican. You get to experience two different cultures.
Yeah, exactly. I think
So,
that's awesome.
One day I get to experience Black History Month, and then the other I get to experience Black.
Like Hispanic month.
Yes.
Yeah, is that
Sorry,
in
my
October?
brain threw me off.
Is it like in
Hispanic
October?
Heritage Month?
Yeah, in October.
In September.
Oh, September. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, Hispanic Heritage Month and Black History Month.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it's nice to experience two different cultures within the year, and I'm just like, it's nice to experience Black History Month where that comes from, and then the other one I experienced Hispanic Heritage Month, and it's nice to be in two different cultures and all that. Just like even going to New York, like when we both went, we experienced like many cultures. Like we've seen like anything and everything, and it was nice too because we got to experience different things. And it was nice that you went to New York because you'd never been, and then me, I've only been there, but I haven't fully experienced it.
Yeah.
Like I went time to time, but like I said, I was little. I don't really know much. I mean, I know a little, but it's just there. I don't really know like a lot. But last month's trip kind of like changed all that, and I'm just like, I'm fully glad that I experienced New York City and many parts of New York City, and got to do so much amazing stuff down there. And I know it is a lot different than it was back then than it is now because it's more modern, because a lot is changing nowadays. But it's still, got to see one of the biggest cities in the United States. So, and then also another thing, it's crazy how we went from the west to the east. Because we went to California or Los Angeles in the beginning of the month, and then we went to New York at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So going from the west on the beginning of the year, and then to the east to the end of the year was actually really nice. Because like we went to different parts of the United States.
Yeah, that was awesome. It was a fun trip for sure.
Yeah,
So,
we've been on so many trips. It's been great. I definitely wish to continue them because it's nice to experience the world, even if one day when that comes, to experience outside the country.
yeah, that would be awesome to
Yeah.
do that for sure.
Yeah. So, but we're definitely off topic.
Oh yeah, no, you're good. I know we were gonna talk about travel at some point, so that's definitely good to bring up. But as far as like high school, like yeah, I think yeah, here in the South especially, I feel like people like to assume that somebody's something. Like we'll make assumptions
Yes.
sometimes. So that's something that we still need to improve on, for sure. But as far as like high school. As far as favorite subjects, do you feel like that has changed, or did you feel like it was your favorite subject still like cafeteria, going to the cafeteria, or do you feel like you had a love for any other subject?
Didn't really. I just wanted to graduate,
Yeah,
and I guess like most people or some people, everybody had their school bully, and I did have a school bully in high school. Like I said, I was more introverted, so I didn't really have that many friends. I did have friends, but like I said, I would mainly associate with them in class, but not really much afterwards. Mainly, like I said, I was mainly by myself when I was in high school because I wasn't fully out there yet of being more outspoken, because I was kind of like still in a shell of being quiet and to myself.
yeah, I could definitely relate to that for sure. I still was very shy and introverted up until I got out of school, kind of like you, to where I opened up a lot more once I got out of school. But I know we only have a little bit of time left, so I'm actually going to do kind of like a speed round kind of thing to
Let's
kind
do
of
it.
cover the rest of these. Okay, so once you graduated, like on your graduation day, were you pretty happy and relieved that you graduated?
Yes.
So you don't miss school?
No. Who does?
Yeah,
But I guess sometimes where you could be like, I'm tired of working.
yeah.
And like, why am I? Sometimes you think like, do you want to go back to school? I'm like, no. It's like you don't want to go to school, but you don't want to work either. I'm just
Yeah.
like, you just want to enjoy life
Yeah,
while you still
exactly.
have it. So,
Yeah. So as far as for me, I don't really miss high school really. I was kind of happy. It was a bittersweet moment, happy and sad kind of moment graduating, but I was more happy than anything. But I guess for me, I moved on into college, so I continued on with schooling. But as far as that, goes, I had some challenges on the road, but I ended up graduating 7.5 years later. At 25 years old, that was great. So I guess moving on into like the job world, now you work at Publix, but before that you were working at other places. So if you had to give ratings as far as your previous jobs, like I guess we might as well just talk about your first job at Dollar General. That's another Southern store, and that's around. How was your experience out of a 10?
man, I don't know where to go from there. I would say maybe a 6. because it was good in some parts, but then it was bad in many parts.
Yeah.
Because that was my first job I ever started, and a lot's happened since I worked there. Like, I went through going to different stores because I wouldn't get hours, like, and then I went through promotions, trying to make sure I stayed having my hours, and they treated me like crap, like most jobs do nowadays. But you got to know where you are. Crazy stuff has happened there. Just so many chaotic things, and then some good things too. When I got promoted down there, but surprisingly, I'm surprised I stuck there as long as myself. Because as a job, I keep thinking about it now. I'm just like, I'm surprised I stood there for 5 years. Because that was like when I got out of high school, that was the first job I ever had. And then that's pretty much when I got my driver's license, when I started working. Because I didn't really start working until I got out of high school. So.
Yeah, so I guess for me, yeah, I did start my job, Food Giant was my first job at 16. So I was in the middle of high school as I started my job. But that was, if I had to give it out of a 10, I would say an 8 out of 10, because I felt like I got to meet different people. I had good and bad customers, but more good. But the only bad thing is I feel like the way they paid was not enough.
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's the only thing I'll say.
That's nowadays too. And then another thing with me working at Dollar General, like, I've been through people who didn't like me, people would lower my hours, and I mean management. So management can be toxic, and they would drop my hours to as low as possible to get me to quit. And I was just like, I'm not gonna quit just because you're lowering my hours or anything like that. So I was just like, I'll just transfer or move to a different store, or just get away from this environment. So you got to do what's best for you, people.
Yeah, most definitely. So taking on management, yeah, like once you get out of, like, I guess from school to job, there's that difference of, that could be hard, but at least you're getting paid too. But sometimes you aren't getting paid as much as you should too. So just taking on all of that as far as a job wise, that's rough. But I think here for the last portion of this recording, we might have to finish this in my car. So I will see y'all here in a few minutes.